Come on, y'all. Y'all so crazy. Sit us down. I gotta tell you something.
Sometimes I'm right, and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, baker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. Everyday people. Yeah, listen.
Good morning, this is Pete. You're listening to 95.7 The Choice. Coming to you live from our home, our new home here at Kuchar's Cafe, 81 Patton Avenue in downtown Asheville. So this is our song. This is our segment called Everyday People, and just got a routine going with Everyday People. Normally bring in all kinds of cool things that are happening here around town, and people that live here that are impacting not only Western North Carolina, but in some cases, just outside this world too, in other countries. But this morning I've got a little bit more serious topic, and if you have small children, you might not want them to be part of this, but it's certainly if you have teenagers, you definitely want to tune in and you want to hear what we have to say today, because it's a little bit more of a serious nature, but I think it's something that needs to be brought to light so that like a lot of other concerned people in Western North Carolina, regardless of your background, when things are harmful and when things are dangerous, certainly that's what we want to use the airwaves for, bring some things to people's attention. So by now you're wondering, what is he talking about? But I've got a guest here in the studio that's going to help explain some of that. My guest here in the studio is Brandon. Brandon I've known for, 4 years? Something like that?
About 4 years.
About 4 years. We started on a recording project some years ago, talented musician, but he has some things on his heart that he wants to share this morning, and hopefully that will bring some attention to a subject that might help some others from falling into what I would call a trap. Certainly there are things, and we'll get to the heart of this in a second, but certainly there's some things out there that we can fall into, that are easy to fall into, I should say. And that can be a dangerous thing. In particular, today, we're going to be talking about the whole subject of incense. No, this is not the kind of incense that you just put in a little dish and make your house smell nice. And for myself, anyway, this was a foreign subject. Didn't know anything about it at all. And as I've come to learn about it, and also knew another young gentleman here in town who became involved in the smoking of incense, it really put a spin on the whole drug situation. And I think we're going to continue to follow the story as well as publicize it as much as possible. We're also looking at getting some politicians involved to help change the laws that at least would make this a lot more difficult for people to obtain. So, Brandon, with all that long intro, welcome to the studio.
Thanks, buddy.
So, give us a little bit of background on yourself before we get into this whole subject. Just a little family life. You come from a family of musicians, and give us a little background on yourself prior to all of this coming into and becoming a dominant part of your life.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I was raised in a Christian home, and my parents, raised me with good values. They raised me great. I loved God with all my heart. I ran after Him with all my heart. I was in a Christian ministry with my brother and my dad. That's when we met Pete. We started recording with Pete as a Christian band. I was working with youth groups. I was just, every time the doors of the church was open, I was there. I just loved helping people. I loved volunteering. I loved life. Around 18 years old, I was in the store, and there's these little baggies hanging up on their little display case, and I asked the dude, I was like, "Hey, what's this?" He said, it's synthetic marijuana. And, at this point in life, I was just having a hard time, just being 18. Of course, most 18-year-olds end up going through hard times. And so, I asked him about it. I was like, is it harmful? And he's like, it's completely harmless, and it's legal and everything. So I was like, you know what, why not try it? So I tried it. Well, long story short, that cashier lied to me. My life started going downhill. The first time I tried it, I was instantly hooked.
So let me clarify that.
Yeah.
And this might be, some of these questions might be a little painful, a little bit tough, but I think that's one of the, if we start to list the major danger zones of this, and we're going to call it incense from now, but in the interview here, we want to talk about all the names of it so parents can be aware if they hear a word, one of these words, or if they see it on Facebook, or it looks like an innocent word, that parents can be tipped off at the danger of this. Unlike some other drugs that maybe you have to use for a period of time before you're really hooked, I want to just zero in on one thing you just said, and that's the first time. One time.
That's it. That's all it took. And it may be different for other people, but everyone that I have met who has took a part in smoking this stuff, it's always the first time.
Right. Okay.
And either this is what happens with the first time. Either you like it the first time and you get hooked, or the first time you do it, you end up in a horrible panic attack and you end up in the hospital.
Okay. Unlike, and this is not to play down some of the issues related to other drugs, but, people, and again, I grew up in the 70s, so it was very, very prevalent, and there were no big warning signs back then. It was all about, great fun and no downside. So that's the era that I grew up in. But there are a lot of people, even back then, that would smoke pot and say, well, I just don't like it. Yeah. Or, other drugs. And, there wasn't that instant, I'm hooked sort of feeling like this. So it's synthetic. What does that mean? We talked a little bit before we came on air about how this is made. So maybe just touch on that a little bit about how do they make this stuff?
Synthetic is basically, it's not natural, just like, normal marijuana. Marijuana is natural. How they make this stuff is basically they get this green stuff, which is basically looks like incense. It looks like potpourri, and they put it, just lay it down basically, and then they spray it with a mixture of chemicals called JWH100, JWH200, and they change the name so many times. And that's one of the reasons it's still around, because they keep changing the names, keep changing the chemical mixture, so they can get through the laws, they can get through the loopholes.
So they can pass a law that says this chemical compound is illegal, and then just change the compound and they're back in business again.
That's right.
So it's really hard to chase.
It is hard to chase, and it's just, I really feel if people would just listen to the story, listen to my story, listen to others' story, and understand what this is doing to people. I mean, folks, this ruined my life.
So let's focus on that a little bit. When you started out, obviously, in a Christian band, out in ministry all the time, you smoked this one time, you're hooked. Yeah. What happened from that point on? How did things spiral down from there?
I started lying about a lot of things. I started lying to my parents to get money. I stopped playing music with my brother and my dad, and because of that whole band just fell apart. I stopped going to church all the time because I was afraid to go to church because I was high 24/7 off this stuff. And it eventually spiraled to lies. It went to me being a thief. I started stealing from people, my family mostly. Started stealing from my family. Just started lying to everyone. Just being completely fake, and I completely gave up on God. And I ran from God. I never read the Bible anymore. I never went to church anymore. All I did, as soon as I woke up in the morning, all I was trying to figure out was, how do I get money to get my next high? And I would do anything to do it.
Now, as drugs go, just so that people are not aware of what an issue this is as drugs go. This is relatively inexpensive. I mean, your habit, as you talked about earlier, grew to whatever, $100 a day, something like that.
About that.
But that's a lot of stuff because from the way you describe it, this is relatively inexpensive. So a teenager out there can, with very little money,
Sure.
do a tremendous amount of damage.
Right. If you have a $9 bill, if you have $9, you can go pick it up. That's how cheap it is, and that's a danger. And the bad thing is, you're supposed to be 18 or older to buy this stuff. Not once in my life have I seen these people ID people. I've seen a 13-year-old walk in and buy it, and walk out.
Okay.
No idea or nothing.
Because there's money involved. There's
Exactly.
money involved.
They don't care about these kids. Yeah, and they don't think it's their fault. They don't take any blame. They don't have anything to do with it. And then that 13-year-old kid goes home, smokes it up. Guess what? He's in the hospital.
Okay, so let's besides losing most importantly, your relationship with God, or at least in your mind anyway, God never leaves us or forsakes us, but
That's right.
certainly in that kind of place you can feel like you've turned your back on him.
Yeah.
What other damages, what other relationship damages have been done?
Well, I've lost a lot of friends just because, I used to hang out with friends all the time, and I stopped just to get high. So I've lost a lot of friends. My family, there's definitely been some tension in my family because of the things I've done. But,
The trust is broken.
the trust has been broken. And I've put fear in my family because they thought I was on the way to death. I can't tell you how many nights my mother and father have cried themselves to sleep because they're scared that they're going to walk in my room one morning and I'm going to be dead. And a lot of people who smoke this stuff, they'll say, "Oh, it won't kill you. It won't kill you." Not true. I know of four guys who went to the hospital, all smoking the same stuff. They went to the hospital. They now have to go to kidney dialysis 3 times a week.
For life.
For life.
And how old are they?
One's 19, one's 18, and the other ones are 22.
Okay, so let me drive this home because the casual listener driving in their car might think this can't be true. Well, it is true. So 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old, how many times would you say that, or how long were they involved with this drug before they had to go on kidney dialysis for the rest of their life?
I know of 2. I don't know about the other 2, but 2 of them, the 19-year-old and one of the 22-year-olds, I know they were only on it for 3 months.
So 3 months smoking incense, and you're on kidney dialysis for life.
That's right, for life. Another guy I know, it's a patient of a doctor I know. He smoked it for, I believe, he said 4.5 months. And he now has permanent brain damage. Can't be done. Nothing can be done about it. He has permanent brain damage. He's going to have that for the rest of his life.
Can't be undone.
Nope.
Wow.
It's done.
So not only is this, as you look at drugs and you put them on mentally, you sort of put them on a graph, and you say, okay, as a drug that can do damage to you, something that is really, really expensive or really, really hard to get might be at one end of the spectrum. And then you also look at the damage that drug can do and sort of make a mental picture of what that is. And this is the worst, in my mind, the worst of the worst, because you have a drug that is A, relatively cheap to get, B, readily accessible, and we're going to talk about that and where you can get it in town here in a second, and then C, is ultra high on the scale of damage that it's like the perfect storm.
They have done studies, and all this information I'm getting, about the guys with kidney dialysis and the brain damage, I'm getting this information from doctors.
Right.
They know what they're talking about. They have done studies. The addiction level of this stuff is up there with crack and heroin, and the damage is up there with cocaine and meth mixed.
Okay, let me ask you, and I'm trying to cover like a lot of ground
Go
here.
for
You know,
it.
I'm just going for it.
Go
I
for
got
it,
the
man.
gas pedal all the way down. What would you say? Or what have you seen in this other world? Let's just say somebody who's smoking pot, and it's natural, and seeming well. There's some states that are legalizing it, and it can be. Somebody will try to make a convincing story that, hey, it's okay, it's going to be legal and all that. But for someone who's smoking pot regularly, and they find incense, is it fair to say that somebody would want to make that leap to incense because, first of all, they can not have to worry about whether it's legal or not, because they
That's
can
right.
legally buy it. So they don't have to worry about getting arrested. I don't think. What's the drug testing? Can you drug test for incense in the blood or the urine?
You cannot, but as far as it being, here's the crazy thing about this stuff. You can be arrested for this.
In what way?
As it's legal for them to sell it. On the pack says not for human consumption. It is legal for them to sell it. But as soon as you walk out of that door, open that pack, and start smoking it, and they see you doing it, you go to jail.
Oh, because it's not for legal. It's not for human consumption.
That's right.
Okay,
It's not.
okay.
It's not meant for that.
Okay.
And the way you smoke it, you have paraphernalia. The cops, they hate this stuff. The law enforcement, they cannot stand this stuff. They're doing anything and everything they can to make sure you're arrested if you have it on you, just like me.
Okay. Okay. And so, but going back a second, does it make sense that somebody who is smoking pot would migrate to incense?
It does, and so many people have.
Because the high is bigger,
The
the
high-
high is quicker.
I'll tell you what, I've done a lot of drugs. I'm a recovering drug addict. I've done a lot of drugs in my day, and I'm sad to say because I'm so young. The high of this stuff is the most intense high I've ever experienced in my life. So that is why so many people jump over to it, because the high is so intense, and that's what they want.
Okay, yeah.
And it doesn't show up on drug tests, like you said. Now, I do believe I have some sources saying that the military has come out with drug tests to test for this.
Okay.
So, hopefully that comes around, here eventually, out to the public eventually.
So let's touch on a scenario here where, and I know your parents, pretty well, and parents are the first ones always to be in denial. Oh, my son would never do that, because they forgot what it was like when they were kids. What would you say to a parent of a teen, and that parent even has the slightest suspicion, or what should a parent look for? What are the telltale signs, even if they're in that mindset, said, well, my son or my daughter, they're active in school and they're, the cheerleader, or they're on a football team, or they're doing this or they're doing that. Because this is so quickly addictive and so quickly damaging, parents don't have a long period of time for discovery and then the ability to go protect their kids. What should a parent, if you had a parent of a teen sitting here, and even if the teen wasn't doing anything, what should that parent look for to help be really quick to react if they even suspect something is going on? What should they do?
There's just a lot of different signs for this. A big one is isolation. If your kids are, if they're always hanging out with you, or at least they're around you, if they're not in their room all the time, if they're starting to be in their room all the time, or they're starting to stay away from home all the time, make sure you look at isolation, because if they start isolating themselves, there's something going on, no doubt. As far as the drug goes, very, very big mood changes, very big mood swings. Their eyes tend to get very, very, very low. And, a lot of the times, kids who do it, they'll actually end up going to their parents before their parents even realize it, because what this stuff does, every time I've smoked this stuff, every person who smoked this stuff, they'll tell you the same thing. As soon as you smoke this stuff, your heart starts racing, and it feels like 200 miles an hour. And, you start pacing, and you start getting really scared. And it gets you throwing up, it gets you in convulsions. And, sometimes kids will go to their parents for that. But, it's mainly the isolation. That's what my parents kind of realized from me, and the lies.
Because you were a very social kid. You had to be around people all the time.
Yeah,
every
right.
waking moment.
That's right. That's right. And I completely stopped doing that. I stayed in my room 24/7. And if your kids have jobs, and for some reason they're not having as much money as they usually do,
okay,
definitely start look at that, and just the whole spice thing in general. Just the smell of it is pretty strong. So
what does it smell like, so a parent could know what to? Does it smell like potpourri, or
it does? It smells like different flavors of potpourri and incense.
Okay.
And it's very strong. It's not very easy to hide, unless you have incense burning in your house.
Now there's going to be some people in Asheville that might be upset with this, but I want to make this public. Where can you go buy this?
I don't care if they're upset or not. You can buy this at any octopus garden except for the one in Leicester, I believe.
Okay.
They're selling it. The law knows they're selling it. They're selling a few different kinds, but and there's other smoke shops that you might be able to sell it at. But I know that Octopus Garden is the one to go to for everyone.
Okay. And hopefully somebody that is connected, and we're gonna pursue this, but somewhere in legislation, because you walk past a smoke shop, paraphernalia shop, and you think, well, and there's sort of this, not that I agree with this, but there's sort of this decriminalizing of marijuana, and so you walk past a smoke shop and say, that's for the marijuana smokers.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Mm-mm.
It's not.
No,
it's
not.
And then the other question I have for you is how, if somebody were to mistakenly draw the conclusion that you are an isolated case,
Yeah.
and this really isn't going on, this is just a small problem because it's affecting a small amount of people,
Mm-hmm.
how would you characterize the extent of this problem, we'll just say, in Asheville, among teens?
In Asheville, among teens, I would call it an epidemic. I really would. I would call it a hidden epidemic, because people, they have their eyes closed to the situation. I mean, and it's a huge problem here. It's a huge problem in a lot of places. It's completely banned in South Carolina right now, and there's kids in South Carolina just making the hour drive just to get that fixed, just to get that
Just
stuff.
to come up here
Just to come up here, get that
Asheville
stuff,
to
and
buy
go
it.
back home. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
It is a huge, huge problem that me and a few other people I know of, and Pete, we're going to do anything and everything we can to get this stuff going.
So what's next for you? We've got about 5 minutes left here, but what's next for you? You kind of come to this conclusion. How is your daily struggle? Obviously, something this addictive wants to keep pulling you backwards, and so you've got this ongoing fight to continue to move forward. What's day-to-day life for Brandon these days, and how's the battle going?
It's it's tough. Tougher some days than other, but I have by the grace of God, I have been able to fix the relationships with my family that I've broken. So I have a huge support system from my family, my dad's band.
Yeah, your mom and dad are great.
Yeah, my mom and dad are amazing.
There's some parents out there that would.
I'd be out on the streets.
You'd be out on the streets
That's
permanently.
Right.
Yeah,
That's right.
And they show their love.
That's right. My parents did everything they could.
Tremendous ways.
Yeah, they did everything they could, and it paid off. I'm here today. Today is my 24th day sober off this stuff, and I feel completely amazing. But it is hard. And it's especially hard, just thinking that, man, this is killing kids. This is putting kids in hospitals. It's it hurts me inside to know that this stuff isn't gone yet. So, me along with a few other guys, we're going to have a few meetings, have a meeting with the congressman, and I had one of the guys who's pretty high up there. He told us that, we're going to Washington if we have to.
Okay.
We're getting this stuff going. So we're doing whatever we can, and, we're not going to stop until it's over.
One last comment. Speak directly to a parent, a mom or a dad that has a teen that they're thinking, no, this could never happen in my family. This could never happen here. What would you say to them, knowing that their teen, this could be a life or death situation for one of their teens? What would you say to them?
Okay. With all the things I used to do in ministry and everything, my parents, I've been told by multiple people that they never once saw me doing this. They never once saw me getting addicted and having this problem. Folks, we got to realize addiction does not discriminate. It doesn't. And please, if you're in denial, what's it going to hurt to at least look into the situation? What's it going to hurt? That, if you ignore the situation, if you feel your son, if your son or daughter is doing something and you're in complete denial about it, that's a life or death situation. You stepping in is life or death.
Okay. Well, we're going to stay close to the story. Brandon, I want to thank you for coming on the show and being very transparent and bearing your heart on this whole subject. I know that's probably not an easy thing to do, and we're going to do some follow-up stories and like to stay in touch and keep people posted on this. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of this, you can just go to 957 The Choice, look at Everyday People, and look up Brandon and Incense, and we're going to have that archived on our Ustream site. So just go to 957thechoice.com, and you can get the Ustream broadcast. It'll lead you to the links for this story. And Brandon, thanks so much. We're going to stay in touch with this story and see what we can do about it.
Okay, thank you, bud.
All right, thanks.
Come on, y'all.
This is WGNW LP 95.7 FM, The Choice.